Want to see something, Don? That is a Bluetooth speaker.
Oh, cool.
It's a little tiny thing.
Oh, neat.
A 1-inch Bluetooth.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Ham Nation, episode 551 for July 19th, 2023. Okay. Thanks so much for clicking on Ham Nation here on the Ham Radio Crash Course. We have a lot of fun for you. We're going to talk about a couple of interesting things. We're going to deep dive in a couple of different areas, portable operations, and we're going to meet the new 2023 Young Ham of the Year. We do have a couple of our hosts on out on location, as I'll call it. But I'm here today with Don. How are you doing, Don?
I'm good. I'm real good. It's been hot. I mean, not like Phoenix hot, but, you know, we had a heat index today of 108 down here and expect the same right on through the week. And, you know, unlike Phoenix, we have that Gulf of Mexico humidity. And also out in the Atlantic, nothing to worry about is Tropical Storm Don, which seriously, you Google it, it's out there, and it's only the fish are in danger. Mm-hmm. Kind of like me, it's just wandering aimlessly around. It's full of hot air and it's stirring stuff up, and that's pretty much all that's going on out there.
Do we have to worry about a kind of like pincer maneuver where Hurricane Lon comes in off the coast and Don meets up and there's a
no, please, don't invoke that at all.
That's scary, right? We got to worry about that.
That would not be attractive.
No. And
We've
Joe,
got solar news also. Yeah, solar news also from Dr. T. And like you said, we're going to meet the 2023 Young Ham of the Year, or as we call him, the Waihooti.
The Waihooti. That's right. Yes, that's a good mnemonic device. Joe, how are you this week?
Well, I'm doing good. It's actually rather cool today. It was around 80. And now it's 77 degrees. So no rain, but actually really nice for this time of year, actually way below normal. Usually it's over 90. So enjoying that, which means also time to stay cool and build kits. So I'm going to show a little bit about what the Sioux Falls, South Dakota Ham Fest was like this last weekend. And I'm going to show you what I'm working on.
Excellent.
And actually a quick visit to something in Sioux City on my way home. You'll get a kick out of this.
I always like your reports there from the Hamfest. And because this is a live show, we're live right now, we take comments from the chat. And we got an M.R. Rice. He's actually got a question for Joe right off the top. Joe, are you going to the Shreveport Hamfest on August 12th?
I wished I was. That sounds like fun. In fact, I think it's known for its crawfish.
Ooh.
And but no, I am not. I have never been to Shreveport. In fact, I haven't been to Louisiana in many years. So maybe at some point they can bring me down there and I'll do a kit build or a talk right down there in Shreveport. Be glad to come down.
That'd be fun. Little mud bugs and ham radio. Right on. Well, it's my honor to throw itself to me because I get to interview our first guest, Bob. How are you doing, Bob?
I'm doing great.
So K0.
I'm sitting here at 9,600 feet in the mountains of Colorado, and it's about 67 degrees out, so we're good.
Very comfortable. Very comfortable. So K0NR, you are here to talk about ham14er.org. And for a lot of people watching, I see Adam K6AK is in the chat. He knows what this is. But Bob, what is this thing? What is this event?
This is the Colorado 14er event. This will be our 32nd year. I can't hardly believe it. Wow. Started back in the previous century, and a bunch of us said we were out hiking 14ers, the 14,000 feet mountains in Colorado, and we typically took our ham radio gear along, usually HTs or something simple, and we'd start talking to each other, and then one day we said, let's just all do this together on the same day, get as many summits on the air as we possibly can, and that's where it all started.
Now, this actually predates Summits on the Air then, right? As kind of an organization then by that timing, right?
Yeah, by like 19 years. And
yeah,
so
by a good stretch.
So we were doing this. We were focused on the 14ers. There's like 54 of them, depending on how you count them. And but when Soda came along, it's like, hey, this is a great system, a great program that came out of the UK. So we fully embraced that and said, okay, we're we're a SOTA event, and we still call it the Colorado 14er event because those are the most special mountains in Colorado. But they're all good.
Now, I mean, I think again for the people that are kind of finding this out about this the first time, I know you got some slides, so I don't want to steal any of your thunder here. But what do people need to do to participate?
Yeah, so there's, it's like a typical SOTA thing, right? You can either be an activator or a chaser. And so if you're into hiking, or even if you don't want to hike a lot, you can get on a summit that's easy to get to, take some radio gear along, and be an activator. And we can talk some more about that. And then, but if you're not up for that, maybe you're at home, you get your radio gear out and see which of the summits you can contact on VHF or also HF. We'll have quite a bit of HF activity as well.
If you're somebody that's like starting out in summits on the air and you're thinking about maybe doing their first activation, would this be a good time to potentially do it and try and get that summit to summit contact, you think?
Yeah, because there'll be a lot of stations on the air, and you could just start with your HT, maybe get an upgraded antenna, and there'll be plenty of people to talk to be kind of an easy way to start.
Yeah, I love that. Well, why don't you show us some of those beautiful pictures aside from the one behind you? This is where you're talking from close enough,
Yeah,
right?
pretty much. Just a couple miles away from here. That's a buffalo ranch that. All right, where'd it go? There it goes.
All right.
Okay, are we good?
We're good. Looks beautiful.
Okay, Colorado 14er event. I already gave you sort of the origin of this thing. That's me on Mount Sneffels. That's a 14er a few years ago. Just a gorgeous day operating the 14er event. And so here's kind of the definition. It is the big SOTA weekend for Colorado once a year. It's the first full weekend in August. We've actually morphed it a bit over the last couple of years to be a 4-day event. So we start on Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday are going to be the big days, and then Monday is the wrap-up day. So we call Friday and Monday kind of like bonus days. And there are 1,805 SOTA summits in Colorado, and that includes most of the 14ers as well. You can use VHF, HF, any mode. Really, you can do anything you want. Most of the activities, 2-meter FM plus CW and single sideband on HF, particularly like 20 meters and 30 meters, maybe some 40 meters. Really kind of hit this. Maybe the SOTA activation requirements. People, I think, are becoming more familiar with SOTA, but to do an activation, the summit must be on the list. It's not like you just go to any old summit. There's a list that have been curated, and the equipment must be carried, but there's no minimum distance. So you don't operate from your car. You pick up your gear and shove it in a backpack or whatever, and walk away from your car and set up. And it has to be portable power, no fossil fuel generators, so that pretty much means battery power for folks. Here's a picture of those of where those summits are. They're all on the western 2/3 of the state, and this comes from a really handy tool called SOTLAS or SOTA Atlas. Kind of interesting URL, sotl.as. It's really great. You pop it up, go to the area you're interested in, zoom in. It can show you what summits are there, and then you can click on it. It'll tell you a bunch of information about those summits. Here's our common operating frequencies: 146.58, the North America Adventure frequency. We try and use that a lot, and a couple other simplex frequencies on 2 meters as well as 70 centimeters. And then I've listed a few 40 meter and 20 meter frequencies, but really any legal amateur band or mode, try whatever you want. And then there's more information at ham14er.org. So if you remember one thing out of this, just remember ham14er.org, and it'll take you to all kinds of information. And then we do try and actually stay off of 5.2, because the first year we did this, we just went out there and said, well, we'll call each other on 5.2. Well, guess what? We totally overwhelmed the frequency. So after that, we came up with a little more thought out plan. So that's, people will use 5.2 because sometimes you're in a remote area and you just can't, get enough contact. So you might want to try that, but we try and minimize that. It turns out it's going to be a big SOTA weekend that weekend because the guys up in the Pacific Northwest, Washington and Oregon, have adopted the same weekend. Now they call it the not quite a 14er event.
I like it.
And so they'll be on. I think they're just on Saturday and Sunday. And then the Southern California folks have an event they call SOTA Fest, and that's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So if people are on HF, we'll be able to work those guys. But then there'll be a lot of local VHF activity as well. So it's going to lots of summit to summit opportunities there. So I was saying earlier, before we started, one of the things about SOTA is you get really great pictures. Here's my buddy Steve operating from one of the 14ers a few years ago, WG0AT, very well-known SOTA activator.
Absolutely. I know that.
Here's my favorite SOTA activator. This is my wife, Joyce, K0JJW on Humboldt, another 14er a few years ago. And then here she is on Pikes Peak, operating from there. Looks like she's on 2 meter FM with a little mobile radio there. Here's David and Ben on Mount Chavano a few years ago during the event. Han Chu is an active participant on Mount Belford. And then a couple years we had a group of Boy Scouts that adopted Pikes Peak, and there was like a whole troop of them up there operating the event. Now they've got kind of a typical setup. He's got his HT in his hands there, and then you will see a bunch of HTs, of course, and simple antennas. But we really encourage people to upgrade their antenna. It makes a huge difference. Your typical rubber duck is just not that efficient, and so if you really want to have the best signal possible, you need to do something there. So in this case, you see the very common arrow antenna for 2 meters and 70 centimeters. Pretty popular. This is me on not quite a 14er. I think that was South Peak. So it's probably about 12.5, something like that. And that's the 3-element single band Yagi for 2 meters. I really like that antenna. Use that a lot. Here's my buddy Stu using an HT on Red Mountain number 3 over on the western side of the state. Here's a 70 centimeter antenna.
Look at that. That's cool.
What a view.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great view. That was Mount Antero. And so there'll be quite a bit of activity on 70 centimeters as well. Okay, this is me headed to that mountain in the back there. It's an unnamed peak, but it's right off the Continental Divide Trail. So you're walking along literally on the Continental Divide. It is just so awesome. I think Joyce and I are going to go activate that one again because we just love that trail.
Name it Mount Joyce. If it's unnamed, name it after your wife. That's Mount Joyce.
That's Mount Joyce. Okay, write that down. Here's Peter a few years ago on Gray's Peak. He's got a Yagi up. He actually built kind of put up a little mast, and then there's a Maxon antenna there for 6 meters. Trying out different bands. Here's David on Mount Elbert. That's the highest summit in the state, so he gets the award for that. And you see the same 3-element Yagi antenna from Arrow. Here's Chris, K0CAO on one of the 14ers. I don't remember which one that is. And then in the last couple of years, we've been doing some work with 1.2 gig. It's like new challenges, try out new things. And a lot of the SOTA guys have been doing this, particularly with small HTs and then some. This is a Comet Yagi for for the 23 centimeter band. And 2 years ago, David, W0ADV, was over on Sunshine Peak, and I was on Mount Evans, and we were just barely making contact with on 1.2, and what he found was if he pointed right at that notch, that seemed to be the notch in that mountain off in the distance. That seemed to be the sweet spot to get the signal through. So here's another picture of him standing on that 14er.
What kind of distance is that between the two?
Well, I'm glad you asked. That was 152 miles.
Wow.
Wow.
And I think we can go further than that, but that's what we did that day. And there were enough peaks in the way. That was not a line of sight situation that we just barely made the contact. Here's Steve again, a little bit older picture. If you look there, you can see that he actually has an older Elecraft radio down there, a little bit bigger. I don't remember the model
K2.
number. So
K2 or
yeah,
K1.
maybe a K2 or K1. And then this is his pack goat Rooster, who's since left the planet, but Rooster helped carry that gear up. And then here's Steve again with Guy, N7UN, and Rooster. And the backstory on this one, you can see the weather is pretty bad that day. So
yeah.
So those guys are very accomplished HF-CW operators, and they were gonna string up an HF antenna and make a bunch of contacts, and they got up there and the weather was so bad. It's sort of like, get the HT out, make a couple of contacts, and let's get out of here. Mm-hmm. So it's not always prestigious weather. Here's my best bud, Denny, KB9 DPF on Pikes Peak. You can see the cars in the background, and you can drive up Pikes Peak. That makes it pretty accessible. It's got a 70 centimeter radio and antenna there. Carry KX0R is our most active SOTA activator in Colorado, and here he's got his antenna up using a fishing pole. This is quite common with the SOTA guys above tree line, because they want to get their antenna up, but there's no trees around necessarily to string it. So you see that a lot. Here's a really good picture that shows that. This is Steve K7PX. He's got a KX2. A lot of folks like the Elecraft, the modern Elecraft radios for SOTA. And you can see the wire running there. He strung that wire out, and you can't really see the fishing pole very well, but he's got his pole up over there. And then that wire goes right to the KX2, and he drives it with the antenna tuner from that radio, which works really well. Very, very common setup for running HF.
Yeah.
Here's Caleb and Jim. They're both using FT817s or maybe 18s. I'm not sure which. Running, I think that was single sideband on HF. And then I recently purchased one of these. This is my favorite radio right now, is the IC705. I'm very oriented towards VHF, UHF, so I use this a lot to get all mode capability on the VHF, UHF bands. But I have put it on the air for HF, just for the record. I know how to do that. Got to plug the safety issue here. You can get hurt doing this, right? So you want to be prepared, know your route, and know your capability, your ability. And we're always concerned about weather, especially lightning. The big deal is you get above tree line and lightning comes in. It can be very, very dangerous. And then gravity is also a danger. Falling a few feet or 100 feet, whatever it is, you don't want to do that. So here's some resources. Again, ham14er.org will help you. But then there's the SOTA website. There's the Colorado SOTA website. There's a really good spotting network called SOTA Watch. And so you can put out your, first you can put out an alert and say, I'm going to be on this peak on a certain day and probably be on these frequencies. And then when you get there, hopefully you have cell phone coverage or some other way of connecting, and you tell them, I'm on the air, here's the frequency I'm at, give me a call. And then of course the chasers can also spot you, right? If they work you, then they'll go ahead and so that's a really good resource to figure out what's going on. And then I mentioned the SOTA Atlas as well.
Yeah, I just pulled up SOTA Atlas. That's actually a really cool little website. I didn't know about that, oddly enough.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, here's my area. You're pointing the wrong way. There you go. Tons of spots. Well, I knew that in Southern California, but often the mapping tool for SOTA, the SOTA Maps website, is a little hard to navigate for some folks. This makes it a snap. So yeah, I love that.
Yeah, it was a major improvement over the previous tool.
Yeah, wonderful. Anything you want to mention before we head out? We actually do have one question. I'll throw to you in a second on that one. But anything you want to mention? Just any last words on that?
No, just it's a good opportunity to get on the air, whether you're at home or want to go out and get on top of a mountain. And as you can see, there's gonna be a lot of activity across North America, so you can get on from North Carolina or whatever you want and activate out there.
So I know you said you do a lot of VHF, UHF. There was a question about the packability of that antenna you were showing, the Arrow antenna. Do you want to talk about that? How easy it is to possibly break down and take with you?
Oh yeah, that's a good point. That one is really good. In fact, there's a version of it that has a split boom. So that boom must be 3.5 feet long or something. And you pull it apart and it comes down to maybe 20 inches long. And then it's called an Arrow antenna because it uses arrow shafts for elements, and you unscrew those and they all pack down. So it's very handy.
Yeah, relatively lightweight too for the size of it. So
yeah,
good stuff. Good stuff. What do you use if you're doing HF?
If I use HF, it's going to be like an end-fed wire antenna, maybe a half wave, or maybe just one of those. You put a balun on the end and use a tuner to take care of the impedance match.
Excellent. All right. Well, Bob, thank you for sharing that and those wonderful pictures. We really appreciate it, and obviously want to get the word out to everybody to enjoy the Ham 14er event.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
All right, Bob. It is now time to say or hear a little word from ICOM.
From base stations to portable models, ICOM has the best radio for working your favorite bands this summer. Whether outside enjoying sunny skies or inside by the AC, stay cool with ICOM. Explore the world of microwave with ICOM's new SHF portable, the IC905. This all-mode rig covers 2 meters, 70 centimeters, 1.2 gigahertz, 2.4 gigahertz, 5.6 gigahertz, and with an optional CX-G10 transverter, 10 gigahertz. This transceiver also has a few industry firsts up its belt. It's the first to support the 5 major global bands from VHF to SHF. The first Power over Ethernet powered RF module designed to be at the base of the antenna to eliminate signal loss, and the first to be compatible with amateur TV in analog FM mode. Other features include large 4.3-inch color touchscreen, real-time high-speed spectrum scope and waterfall display, easy digital mode settings, supplied high-performance GPS antenna, full D-Star functions for DV and DD mode, and an SD card slot. Aim higher and enter the world of SHF. The ICOM IC7300 is a high-performance, innovative HF transceiver with a compact design that will far exceed your expectations. This innovative HF transceiver digitizes RF before various receiver stages, reducing the generated inherent noise in different IF stages. This is the radio that changed the way entry-level HF is designed. RF direct sampling, 15 discrete bandpass filters, large 4.3-inch color touchscreen, real-time spectrum scope, and SD memory card slot. The real HF fun starts here. Create your own band opening with the IC9700. This radio brings direct sampling to the UHF-VHF weak signal world. The IC9700 is an all-mode transceiver loaded with innovative features that are sure to keep you busy. Expect top performance on field day with ICOM's IC9700. The IC7610 is the SDR every ham wants. This high-performance SDR can pick out faint signals in the presence of stronger adjacent signals. The ICOM 7610 is a direct sampling, software-defined radio that's changed the world's definition of an SDR transceiver. RF direct sampling, 110 dB RMDR independent dual receiver, and dual digicell. For more information about all the great ICOM radios, visit icomamerica.com/amateur.
And another big thank you to ICOM for sponsoring us here at Ham Nation. Every time we go live, we give away 3 swag packs. They include things like T-shirts and other things that, have ICOM on it. This week, or this episode, Gary N. K9JN and Jason M. KD2UDR, and lastly, Chuck E. KG4RUX are winners of the swag pack. And since this is the last episode of Ham Nation before the end of the month, ICOM picks one winner out of all of the people who've won swag packs this year, and they give them a radio. And this month's winner is Bill H. KW4QO. So congratulations, Bill, on that one. If you'd like to get in on the swag packs and potentially win a radio, click the Enter Now button on icomamerica.com/hamnation. And just to show you what we're giving away this whole year, you can go look at the list there. Every month is listed here. So July, it looks like the winner gets an ICVX86. So again, congratulations, and thanks a lot to ICOM. All right, Don, I think you've got a friend of ours that we haven't seen on a couple of episodes. Why don't you take it away?
It's been a little while, but yes, we have had this young gentleman on the radio, on the show with us before, usually talking about youth on the air and things like that. And he happens to be Kees van Oosbree, W0AAE, from Maple Grove, Minnesota. And he is the 2023 Bill Pasternak WA6ITF Amateur Radio Newsline Young Ham of the Year recipient. Kees, welcome to the show. We congratulations first off, and thanks for being with us tonight.
Well, thank you very much, Don. Thank you for having me on tonight. It's a great pleasure.
It's our pleasure as well. So let's start off. How old are you, Kees?
Yeah, I'm 18 years old, and I got started in ham radio 2018. So when I was around 14 years old.
Okay, very good. What got you into amateur radio? What lit the flame, so to speak?
So my cousin's a ham. He was a ham when he was a younger kid as well, and he's inactive now. But I kind of heard about ham radio in the distance from my dad, and he was telling me how my cousin was into ham radio. But what really lit the spark was when I was at this local museum. And I ended up finding a ham radio set there. It's a broadcasting museum, so they covered everything from the start of radio all the way up until the internet. And it was quite fascinating because I saw a map on the wall, and it showed all the contacts that they had made. So I saw Antarctica, and I was like, "Ooh, this is really, really cool. Let's try this out." I didn't realize that. I mean, radio waves at the time could propagate themselves around the world, and that was very fascinating to me. So I studied. It took me forever to get the book because Amazon was slow. It took me 14 days to get the book to study for my technician, and it was killing me because it kept getting delayed, and I was like, I just want to get this license or whatever. Right. So yeah, I studied for a little bit. I got the license, then I upgraded to general soon after. So it's been a blast ever since, and I've been enjoying every single minute of being an amateur radio because I get to do so many different things with technology. So it's been pretty good.
That's been a few years ago. You were how old when you got licensed?
14.
You were 14, but I think you were 12, I believe, when at the
yes.
at the museum. Yeah, I'm looking over the press release now.
Yep.
And so HF and contesting is your thing right now.
Yes, contesting is my big thing. I'm remoting my station, actually. I was doing some work on my remote station here. I have two 7300s that I'm trying to remote for single op to radio contesting. I was working on some interstation interference problems earlier with the bandpass filters and everything, but it's been so much fun because I can I learned CW during the 2020 pandemic because I had no clue what to do with my life inside. Right. So I learned CW, and right now I've been getting my CW skills up, and right now I'm at about 70 words a minute for copying call signs. So
wow,
that's just call signs. It's rough for rag chewing, but I just try to copy call signs just for contesting and everything. So optimizing my station for single op2 radio is my goal right now, and it's been going pretty well. Can't wait to remote it at college.
I suppose that by now you've made that contact to Antarctica yourself, haven't you?
Oh yes, a few times actually. Yeah.
I've only done it once, and it was mobile on 20 meters, and that was just amazing.
That's pretty cool.
It was very 100 watts. Yeah, 100 watts on a 706 Mark II G from a pickup truck from South Mississippi, using, of all things, a Perth Outbacker Plus an antenna. It was
the 706
so
was
much.
a nice radio. I like that radio. I had it for a little bit.
Yeah.
It was that was a nice little thing to have. I could throw it. It felt like I could throw it around and it would never break. It was
exactly. Great Australian technology. So you had a mentor. Who is your Elmer, your mentor that got you into this whole thing?
Oh, so I had a few. That's a good question. So I had a few guys get me into it. Well, into contesting, I had some guys. I should just start with contesting first. I was trying to get up antennas in the tree, and my trees in the backyard, and I couldn't really do it too much. Mm-hmm. So I had some local guys come over. I had their emails. I contacted them. 3 guys came over, K0ND, N0KK, and N0AT, and they kind of inspired me to get really far into contesting, because what they were telling me about, like, their CW skills and everything like that. So that made me pursue my goals in that respect. And then on the other side, remote ham radio has been my other big interest. He's Ray W2RE is the guy who really inspired me to look into new technologies for radio. So this includes the Remote Ham Radio Youth Network, which incorporates different radio stations around the world to be connected with the internet, and so you can use them with your laptop. And it was really nice for him to donate his time and money to get this all working, because he's a for-profit. He has a for-profit company for this, so it was really nice to let us youth use it. So I started that in February of 2020, and I was kind of there were 5 of us actually that kind of took this over from Ray W2RE. So and we've been flying through that ever since. We have hundreds of youth on the program now, and so he's given us the tools, and we've kind of expanded with these other youth. And so he's allowed me to get probably 100 more DXCC entities than I probably deserve with my home station, since I live in Minnesota. And so it's cool. It's been good having him on our side as a youth to promote the hobby and explore new technologies.
All right. So now, obviously, high school is over with. You've graduated. Where you're going to school in Iowa State University, right?
Yes, correct. Yes.
What will you be studying?
Yeah, aerospace engineering.
Okay. All right. Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Do some aeronautical mobile eventually, I'm sure, if you haven't already.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'll be mostly into space, since I'm kind of into satellite communications now. I kind of venture from one thing to the next in amateur radio. So I go from satellites over to ballooning, and then I might work my way around. So I can't wait to get started in my new exploration of education. I love math and science, so it'll be fun.
And that's coming up soon too. Now the Hamfest is August 19th and 20th, and then that Monday, the 21st, you'll be at Iowa State, won't you? I mean, you've got to kind of jet out of the Hamfest and get to class, I guess, huh?
Yes, it'll be interesting. So I move in that prior week, prior to the 19th or whatever. So I have a few things to do and get ready for that. Meet some new people, and then I'm off a plane flight. And I'll be there 19th and the 20th, a little bit in the 20th, and then I'll fly back to Iowa State. I'll get ready for classes on the 21st. It'll be kind of a little close, but I think it'll be fun. It'll be fun.
Yeah. Have you been you've been to Huntsville before, haven't you?
I have never been to Huntsville.
Really?
I've never been to Huntsville. Yeah, it's always at a bad time. Like I either have a vacation or something's going on at that time. So it's always been rough.
You'll have to see the Space and Rocket Center.
Yes,
absolutely.
I can't wait. I've seen so many videos on that. It'll be fun. Yeah.
Definitely definitely budget some time for that. I mean, you'll drive right past it pretty much coming, from the airport anyway. So
Yes.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Well, we can't wait to see you. We will do the presentation at 2:00 local time, Saturday the 19th, there on stage at the Von Braun Center, the South Hall, the Huntsville Hamfest in Huntsville, Alabama. And everyone, of course, is invited to come up and enjoy the Hamfest. It's one of the great Hamfests, I think, probably easily top. Well, I always say top 5, but it's my number 1. I mean, I enjoy it. I really enjoy it way more, I think, than Dayton, because everything is all together under one roof, one air-conditioned roof, which is
That's the best.
That's the best, especially in North Alabama in the summertime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you're gonna love it, Case. You really are, and I can't wait to see you in person and present you with the award. And we've been doing this, the award now for about 40 years, and it seems like every year, it seems like that the recipient it seems like we can't get anybody better, and then every year it just
keeps bumping up.
Keeps bumping up, and that's a great testament to the youth, I think, and the technology and the opportunities that are available now versus, even 10, 20 years ago. So, but it's amazing to see what young folks like you are doing. And I say it every year on stage that, the news is full of bad news and bad people, and those are definitely the minority of the global population, are the bad people. But those are the ones that make ratings and sell newspapers and get clicks and everything. So it's people like you that are going to be running the world not too much longer from now. And if the world is in the hands of people like you, I think we're all going to be just fine. So again, we're so proud of you, and my hat's off to your parents. They've obviously raised a fine young man, and we're definitely looking forward to seeing you in, it's a month from today, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, a month from today. Yeah,
Wow.
that's incredible.
And since you're all about space, tomorrow's, of course, July 20th,
yes.
the anniversary of Apollo 11 landing, and I was lucky enough to be alive and watching it on TV.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
you remember it and everything?
I do. Yeah, I was 9. I was 8 or 9. It was 69, so I was 8 years old. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
that's fun.
So yeah. So. Anyway. A great memory, and it got me started on airplanes and space and technology and things like that. Plus, having a mother who worked at Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma City didn't hurt. The largest strategic air command overhaul depot on the planet at that time, and I've got some great memories about that I'll share with you in person about airplanes that I think you'll dig. So anyway, Kees van Oosbree, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we'll see you a month from today in Huntsville, our 2023 Young Ham of the Year recipient.
Thank you very much, John. We'll see you then. Thank you.
I look forward to it. Now let's go ahead and dovetail over into the news of the week from Amateur Radio Newsline. And speaking of space stuff, the solar update from Dr. Scove. From Amateur Radio Newsline report number 2385, this is Ham Nation headlines for Wednesday, July 19th, 2023. Our top story takes us to the World Radio Sport Team Championship. The prestigious international competition wrapped up in Italy on July 9th, and the winners were announced, including the venues selected to host the competition in 2026.
The World Radio Sport Team Championship, a high-profile competition often viewed as the Olympics of amateur radio, has declared the United Kingdom the winner in the selection process to host the site for the next international contest. The English counties of Norfolk, Cambridgeshire and Suffolk, all in East Anglia, were selected by the sanctioning committee to serve as home to the 50 operating locations for the competing two-person teams. Meanwhile, as WRTC 2022 concluded, the top 3 winning pairs among the other victorious operators were identified as UW7LL and VE3DZ for the first place, DJ5MW and DL1IAO second place, and 9A7DX-9A3LG third. This is Jeremy Bucci for NJH.
According to a new study, those tiny low Earth orbit satellites may be delivering something unwanted and much less attractive than broadband internet access.
Large satellite constellations that provide detailed Earth imagery, as well as broadband internet access to some regions, have been shown to emit unintended electromagnetic radiation that may prove a challenge to radio astronomers' research. Scientists at the Max Planck Institute for Radio Astronomy in Germany report that interfering signals appear to come from the electronics on board a number of SpaceX satellites. Writing in the journal Astronomy and Astrophysics, the researchers said they made the discovery using the facility's low-frequency array telescope. They drew their conclusions after observing 68 of the satellites in low Earth orbit. The report's lead author, Federico Di Bruno, said, quote, "This study represents the latest effort to better understand satellite constellations' impact on radio astronomy." End quote. The scientists said that the most recent observations confirm there is a measurable existence of the radiation. This is Jim Meachin, ZL2BHF.
The Rockall D expedition has ended a bit premature and with a rescue. Newsline anchor Paul Brown, WD9GCO, fills us in.
Scottish adventurer Cam Cameron is home safe. You may recall he was joined initially, and briefly, by 2 amateur radio operators on Rockall in the North Atlantic during his attempt to break the 45-day record for a stay there set in 2014. His other goal was to raise money for charity. Cam's challenge came to an end in late June after 32 days after he was successfully rescued by the Coast Guard and search and rescue personnel. He wrote on the expedition website that he was, quote, "in pain, exhausted, and hypothermic," unquote. However, he did meet his other goal and was grateful to have helped a number of charitable causes.
And that's all from the Amateur Radio Newsline, your independent source for amateur radio news since 1976 at arnewsline.org. With Jeremy Boot, G4NJH, Jim Meachin, ZL2BHF, Paul Brown, WD9GCO, Karen Eve Murray, KD2GUT at the news desk in New York, and our news team across the globe, I'm Don Wilbanks, AE5DW. 7-3, we'll see you next time here on Ham Nation. Now, here's the solar update from Dr. Tamitha Skov, WX6SWW.
We have a whopper of a solar storm on its way to Earth that's been part of a chain of solar storms that have been hitting Earth this week, plus a big radiation storm, plus ongoing big solar flares, and a whole lot of confusion in the media. Those stories and more in the news this week. Space weather this week gets crazy busy. As we take a look at our Earth-facing disk, we have a lot of active regions that have been firing big solar flares, but all eyes have been on region 3363. This region not only has been firing big solar flares, but it also has launched quite a few solar storms. Most of them have been kind of grazing Earth or just not having a big impact. But watch it right there late on the 17th. Wham! Right there. That was a big M5.7 class flare. This actually gave us a massive radio blackout at the R2 level, and it also launched a big radiation storm that has now reached the S2 level and is continuing. As a matter of fact, it's going to continue over the next day or two before things calm down. And the reason for that is because it has also launched a big solar storm. This is one of the biggest solar storms that we've seen of this solar cycle. And even though this region is almost on the sun's west limb, from coronagraphs, it sure looks like that solar storm is going to end up hitting Earth. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. Meanwhile, it's not the only region that's been firing. Region 3276 has also been firing. We've got a solar storm that's going to go off to the east. Doesn't look like it's going to hit Earth, but my goodness, the storms keep coming, and we even have more on the sun's far side. As a matter of fact, as we take a look at Stereo's view, this is Stereo A, and it's looking at the sun just a tiny bit from the side. You can take a look in the south and see region 3363 as it launches that big solar flare and solar storm. You can see it takes a while for those loops to just kind of burn themselves out. This was just such a massive event, but believe it or not, this region is not the only one we're keeping an eye on. Because if we look to the sun's east limb in Stereo's view, especially in the north, there's another region. This is old region 3354 from the last rotation. We've been watching this region on the sun's far side. As a matter of fact, as we take a look at the HMI helio seismology far side viewer, you can see that really dark region. Look how big it grows as it continues to move across the sun's far side. Now, this region is definitely going to be a big flare player. We got some big flares from it the last time time we saw it in Earth view, and it's just about to rotate into view and possibly be a big storm producer as well. Now, taking a closer look at that solar storm launch, we switch to our solar storm prediction model, NLOL. Now, this is NOAA's version of the model. The top panel's density, the bottom panel's velocity. You're looking down at the sun from the North Pole with Earth being off to the right. And as we take a look at that solar storm launch, you can see it looks like it's mainly going west of Earth, but we've got this grazing passage right hitting Earth right about midday on the 20th. So we could get a little bit of storming from this from NOAA's perspective. However, as we switch to the NASA version of NLOL and their run, again, you're looking down at the sun from the North Pole with Earth being off to the right. You can see that solar storm coming off to the west of Earth once again, but not quite as offset as it was in the NOAA model. It looks like we're actually going to get a bit more of the flank hitting Earth, which means a bigger solar storm, plus it's coming faster. From the NASA version, which is a bit more optimistic, the solar storm will be hitting us basically late on the 19th. So the difference between the optimistic version of NASA saying it's going to hit late on the evening of the 18th or NOAA's version of the model saying that it's going to hit midday on the 20th. Wow, that's almost about a 24-hour window that we've got there. So we've got both an optimistic and a conservative kind of bracketing of when this storm's going to hit us. It's likely going to be about a G1, possibly a G2 level solar storm. So we could definitely get aurora down to mid-latitudes. So it's definitely worth, aurora photographers, for you to keep your batteries charged and keep your eye on the skies. Switching to our solar flare and dayside radio blackout outlook over the coming week, believe it or not, with all of the active regions in Earth view, including region 3363, we are seeing some of the highest solar flux numbers we've had all cycle. We're sitting well above the 200s right now, and this trend is going to continue. And this means great radio propagation on Earth's dayside. However, with all this activity also comes a moderate noise on the bands. In fact, NOAA's giving us about a 55% chance of M-class flares at an R1 to R2 level radio blackout, and even a 20% chance of X-class flares at an R3 level radio blackout over the next few days. This is until region 3363 rotates to the sun's far side. But even after that, we have that new region that's going to rotate into Earth view, and that could keep those, not all of these numbers, elevated over this next week as well. So we're just going to have to deal with the radio blackouts, and amateur radio operators and GPS users, be sure to stay vigilant on the Earth's day side and near dawn and dusk. So the space weather this week has definitely gotten exciting. We have a big solar storm that's going to give us a glancing blow, possibly late on the 19th and into the 20th, and possibly the 21st before things calm down. Aurora photographers, if you're at high latitudes, you could definitely get a show. And even aurora photographers at mid latitudes, you have a fighting chance to get a decent show, but it could be short-lived, so you're going to have to pay very close attention. Now, amateur radio operators and emergency responders, well, you're dealing with a lot of radio blackouts on Earth's day side, and sorry, that's just going to be the way things are for the next week, possibly 2 weeks before things calm down, especially with the new region rotating into Earth view here over the next couple days. Luckily, though, region 3363 we're saying goodbye to, so in a few days that won't be an issue anymore. But then you also have to deal with the big solar storm hitting Earth on the night side. So if you're on the day side of Earth and you get these radio blackouts, go to higher frequencies. If you're on the night side when the solar storm hits, go to lower frequencies, and hopefully you can ride this thing out. And now GPS users, well, things aren't looking all that great for you. Both the day side and the night side are going to be impacted here over the next couple days, so you're just going to need to stay vigilant, especially near dawn and dusk or anywhere near aurora. And if you happen to be a drone pilot, be sure to calibrate your magnetometers often. I'm Tamitha Skov, the Space Weather Woman. Thank you for watching.
Thank you, Dr. T. We certainly appreciate everything that you do for us. Make sure you follow her on Twitter at Tamitha Skov, spaceweatherwoman.com as well. And check out Tamitha Skov on YouTube. That's where she posts a lot of her, well, pretty much all of her updates. This update was edited down from 13 minutes. Just her piece was 13 minutes. So there's a lot of information that I had to cut out because of time about moon phases and aurora and some other things. So make sure you keep track of her. And of course, Twitter is the best way. We're certainly happy to have her as part of the Ham Radio family, and of course the Newsline and the Ham Nation team.
Hey, Don.
Yes, sir.
Hey, a question for you. This is related to Tamitha's report. How does one calibrate a drone's magnetometer?
I don't know. I don't fly drones. You need to contact someone in your local area who flies drones. I can barely spell drone.
I heard that at the end. I'm like, I don't know. I'm lost.
I'm probably due to get hit by one any moment now.
I have one, and it involves pointing the thing to the north and hitting something in the app.
Oh, okay. So pointing something to the north and hitting my head with it, is that what you're saying?
That's what I heard, Don. That's what I heard.
That's how I reset the iPhone. I just give it one of those, and I have to be really careful though about putting a magnet, because I do that and it's like that's why I keep this on low power all the time. All right, enough of this foolishness. Let's get on to a whole different brand of foolishness. Joe Eisenberg, K0NEB, who you can also see at the Huntsville Hamfest in his great big hat.
You bet, Don, and I should be wearing it there. Let's see here. We're going to, let's see. It's not there.
It's under the hat.
Yes,
there we go.
Move the hat. We'll get
move the hat.
There you go.
There we go.
Recalibrate the hat.
It looks like it's popping up. It's populating. Maybe. Give it a second. It's got to go to one of those satellites in space that's causing all those trouble.
Right. Exactly. Let's see, Dr. Scoves. This is apparently the solar flare has gotten your presentation.
We're going to need Kees to go figure out what
there
Starlink's problems are.
All right. There it is.
All right. Now we got it.
All right. Well, we're going to talk about a couple different things. Number one, this last weekend, I went to the South Dakota Hamfest in Sioux Falls, which is a little over 3 hours from here. And when I woke up that morning, that's the view you get. That was the sun. You can barely see it there. We had a big dose of the smoke. And so it actually kept temperatures cool. It was very comfortable in the flea market, and it's a new location for it. And so it was a lot of fun. There was some antique radios, and this Zenith antique radio, you can see the big loop on it, and a pickup truckload of antique radios were free for the taking.
Oh, man.
And, all the bakelite you could want.
Wow.
Yeah. And so those were some real treasures, and a lot of those went home. Not with me, but with a lot of people. A lot of interesting old tube-type radios. There were some interesting radios I hadn't seen in a long time, and that's like a 2-meter AM transceiver with 2 separate VFOs. And I had not seen the Pawnee in a long, long time. So very interesting old radio to see. And more your typical flea market stuff there. It was a great crowd. They told me it was the biggest crowd they'd ever had for their flea market. So it was worth the trip. And to answer the next question, I won a end-fed wire kit from hfkits.com.
There you go.
And so I will be assembling that, and I will be showing that in a future episode. And they are the makers of the same kit that ARRL sells. So it'll be a good chance to talk about that kit. This is a wall map that they had up. This is SD Link, and this is their statewide network of repeaters. Everything is open. There's no closed systems. Most are on 2 meters. There are a couple of UHF ones as well. But I could be driving around in Sioux Falls and talking to somebody in the Black Hills on the west end of the state, 400 miles away. So pretty amazing network. You can go north to south and east to west and be on that network called SD Link. And sounds really good, really works wonderful. Also at the Hamfest, there was a family there, had the guy and his wife and 6 kids, 3 boys and 3 girls. And most of the kids are licensed. And inside this little trailer, I kind of had to use a wide angle lens on this, is their parks on the air station. Now they're from Minnesota. They're from Minnesota, and they travel around and activate different state parks. And it's really kind of a family deal there, and they can actually be on more than one band and stuff at a time. It's pretty interesting. Even had a little air conditioner and heater in there and things like that. On the way home from there, I stopped at the Aviation Museum in Sioux City. And this museum is in a very unique position. It is on the exact point at Sioux Gateway Airport that United Flight 232 touchdown is literally where this museum sits now. And they have not only a lot of old airplanes, but they have a lot of artifacts from United 232.
Wow.
And for those that don't know about it, I would just look it up. There's movies and stuff about this event, and Amateur Radio had a huge part in this. And you'll look here in the display case, you'll see the HTs and mobile radio that belong to some of the hams, and you can see an ARES mug in there too. Some of the hams that helped coordinate some of the rescue missions and so forth, and the search for all the surviving passengers that were wandering around in the cornfields that actually grew between the runways there, and they still do to this day. And quite a story of heroism and just incredible piloting skills. And it's a story anybody who's interested in aviation should know about. And this is the largest museum display devoted to this one, and it's literally sits on the exact point where it happened.
Wow.
This is what I'm working on right now. This is Hunt Summer G0 UPL QRP Labs clock kit. Now this is the GPS part of it. And because it is almost all surface mount on that board, all I had to do is solder the USB connector, which I probably won't use, and the SMA connector, which I will use. Now, this is all the parts of the other two boards. One is the LCD display, and the other is the smarts to the clock. There's a lot of parts in that kit that you don't use because it's made for different options for different radios and so forth, and the way they interface with different of his radio kits. And so there are some parts that you don't use and some that you do. So you might end up with a few little extra things from this kit. But as you can see, it's not a huge parts count. You're going to spend more time doing the wiring between the boards and the connectors. And this is what it looks like when I have the front panel assembled. And you can see the IC is in place. And what I've been using to connect the boards is I get these multicolored ribbon jumpers that are used for the solderless breadboards, because they give you the female and male pin sockets to put on there, and they tell you just to solder wires to those pins. Well, I'm not going to do that. I take these jumpers, and guess what? I just plug them in, and it works wonderful. So I haven't quite finished the kit yet, but I'm just about done. And I'm awaiting a few of the right size metric nylon screws and standoffs to be able to finish up the project. But this is what the front panel looks like, kind of nice and neat. And it will display different things like your grid square, Zulu time, local time, whatever you'd like, but it gets its time from GPS satellites directly. So it is always accurate, and it runs on 5 volts, but I'm putting an adapter in there so I can run it off my 12-volt battery supply if I need the clock in the field. And there is a way to interface it so that you can use this for the digital modes, but I have not done that yet. This is how I'm getting the 12 volts down to 5 volts. And this is called a buck converter. And they also have things called buck boost converters that will take a varying input voltage and keep a steady output voltage. But this one just reduces it. So I give it the 13.8 in, and I'll put out exactly 5 volts. And the voltage coming out is determined by the 10-turn pot that's up on the top. How expensive are these things? This particular module puts out 2 amps solid, 3 amps peak, and it sells for $14. Now you say $14, that's quite a bit. Well, actually that $14 gets you 10 of these
Yeah,
things.
yeah, exactly.
They're cheap.
It's
Oh,
10,
and
10 of them.
a pro
for-
tip.
Yeah.
A pro tip for you. Those are polarity specific.
Yes, they are.
Ask me how I know. I'll tell you how I know. I've got a little enclosure that has one of those buck converters in it for my Raspberry Pi.
Uh-huh.
And it somehow or another, I got it I reversed the polarity of the input. It made a loud bang.
Yeah, that capacitor in there will
Yeah.
really bang.
Yep.
So you have to be careful. It's not like the one kit that I showed that it didn't matter the input, but the output was polarized. This one, they are both polarized, and you can
Yes.
see the out plus and minus on the right and the in plus and minus on the left. So you do hardwire that in, and then there's a couple holes for screws so you can mount it to a chassis or something. Some guys, once they figure out the way it goes, they just take a big piece of heat shrink and they slide it over it, shrink it, and then it can just hang in something.
Yep.
But the buck boost and the buck converters, I like to say the bucks are just a little bit over $1. So pretty amazing. And so it's something useful, and I'm using that to talk about these devices and their usefulness for kit building in an upcoming column in CQ Magazine. So we're going to stop sharing and see if we get me back on. And it looks like we did. And so that's what I've been working on the kit building bench here in Nebraska. And back to you, Josh.
Yeah, well, thank you, Joe. I appreciate that. I always love those little pictures you do. I mean, obviously, with all the things you support to the magazine, right? CQ Magazine, you do amazing photos for them. So I can only imagine just your regular photography is always really on point, too. So thanks for sharing all that.
And right now, this week, I'm preparing my entries for the county and state fair that I do every year.
Excellent, excellent.
And
Well,
he usually wins.
Yes,
Something.
right? Don't you usually pull a ribbon?
I usually get a couple of them, so I'm hoping anyways. And maybe one of the shows I'll show a couple of my winners if I get any ribbons.
Yeah,
Excellent.
I think you should.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because there's a lot of people into ham radio that are also into photography. There's a whole lot of overlap there. So, yeah, absolutely you should.
And I have a new lens I got this last week. And
What'd you get? What'd you get?
It's a 24 to, I think it's 105.
Ooh.
F4 fixed f4 maximum aperture, and it's not f4 down to something else.
Right,
It
right,
is
right.
f4 all the way through the zoom range.
Oh, nice.
And
That
that
sets you
goes
back
on
a
my,
little bit, I bet.
Yes,
those aren't
yes.
cheap.
It was
Those aren't
almost
cheap.
as expensive as the camera itself, but the difference is incredible. I used that for some pictures recently, and astounding difference.
I love it. I love it. See, hams have multiple hobbies, and
That's
it's when we
right.
can bring the hobbies together that something really special happens. So I love that. Thanks for sharing, Joe.
You bet. And after we get through the fair season, we'll show off the ribbons.
Excellent. Yeah, and you already got a comment in there. Oh, boy, you have now got me interested in another QRP Labs kit. Good job.
Well, there you go. Your work here is done.
It's a great kit, and you just gotta I don't recommend it for a first timer, somebody who's more experienced, because the different combinations of things, sometimes the instructions are a little vague as to what you do, but if you look carefully, you can figure it out.
Now, does that have a USB plug so I could connect it to my computer? Is that what you're using for a time source?
You can. There is a USB connector on the GPS module, but you can use that as a time source. I have actually a dedicated GPS device that I use on my laptop that is basically the size of that little antenna with the SMA. Instead of the SMA, it has a USB output, and that's what I use on field day for FT8. That way I am not dependent on the phone network to get my timing. I strictly set my clocks and lock it in using a GPS device that's no bigger than that little device there.
Is that the GLONASS dongle, the little white one? That's what I use.
Mine looks just like this one, and it's got a magnet on it, and I sit it on the back of the radio by the window of the trailer where we operate from for field day. And
Nice.
it just picks, it's got everything, and all the smarts are in the module, and it gets GPS, GLONASS, and another network. I think it's Galileo.
Wow. Very cool. Well, thank you for sharing that too. All right, Don, we're wrapping things up. Anything you want to share before we get out of here?
I don't. Just a huge thanks to Kees van Oosbree for being on tonight. And
Yes.
don't forget you can meet him a month from tonight at the Huntsville, Alabama Ham Fest in Huntsville, Alabama, oddly enough. Right, Saturday afternoon, 2 o'clock local time, we will present him with the Young Ham of the Year award. And I can't wait. I'm so looking forward to Huntsville. I love it. My son Tyler's coming with me this year, so it's going to be a father-son trip. And I'm looking forward, and actually maybe get to hang out with some of the YouTubers. I got a little bit of that last year, but hopefully maybe we'll join you guys one evening or something.
Oh yeah, well, we've already got the pavilions booked, so we'll be up there at the Montsano Pavilions.
Yep.
Doing radio. Someone always sets up a bunch of stuff. Like it just happens.
Yeah, it was
Montesano is great.
Yeah,
and they do soda from up there.
It's a soda and a poda, so it's a
Yes,
dual, it's a double.
It's a
threat.
double.
And whenever you bring that many hams together, antennas just start to coalesce and radios start to come out and all these things happen. It just happens. Yeah, they sprout. I like that. Yeah. Joe, anything you want to mention before we get out of here?
Nope. Just look forward to being back on here in 2 weeks.
Yeah, well, thanks again for being on, both of you. I'll be back on Saturday on this channel, so if you enjoyed this, make sure you click subscribe and give us a thumbs up for doing the show. That's how we know you like it. Anyway, thank you so much, everybody, for watching. We'll talk to you again in 2 weeks here on Ham Nation, but I'll be back again real soon. Until we talk to you again, 73.
Good night, everyone. Thanks for being here.